This video will show you how to replace your front strut assembly on this Toyota Corolla. This is part of your front steering and suspension, located behind your front wheel. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we have to do is safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the front wheel's off the ground. After you've done that, we're going to remove all 5 of our 21mm lug nuts and then the wheel. Now that we have the wheel off, we're going to be focusing on the axle nut. The reason why we're focusing on the axle nut first is because it's going to make it easiest to be able to gain access to the ball joint mounting nut. I'm using a 30mm 12-point socket for my axle nut. Now we're going to break this free. I'm using a hammer and punch directly in the center of the axle. Let's get some movement. Once you do see movement from here, we can continue on. We're going to start separating the sway bar link from the front strut. I've already applied some penetrant in this area. If you were looking at the center stud of the sway bar link, you're going to find that you have an area to install a T40 Torx bit. If yours is rusted, just go ahead and tap it in. Now we'll take a 17mm wrench. We're going to bring it over the mounting nut. And I'll be using a 3/8 drive ratchet on this stud. We're going to be turning the nut counterclockwise and holding the stud clockwise. Remove that mounting nut. Now that we have this separated, we can rest it aside. Now along the front of the front strut here, we're going to dislodge our ABS wheel speed sensor wire. Down in this area, I'm going to use a trim tool, but you can also use a flat blade screwdriver as a prying tool. We just want to make our way in between here and gently separate it from the front strut. Make sure it's still reusable. Continuing on, you're going to find that you have a mounting bolt holding the ABS wire and the flex hose in place. We're going to remove that next. For this bolt, we'll be using a 14mm. Now we're going to remove these 2 mounting bolts. To remove these, we're using a 22mm for each side. The bolt comes through from the rear towards the front. The mounting nut is on the forward side. Let's leave that upper bolt in place while we continue on to the next mounting bolt. We'll just make sure it is freed up. We should be able to move this around and start removing our mounting bolts. An important note about this is as you start removing these, the knuckle will start making its way outward. We want to be extremely careful not to put a tug on our axle. Let's pull this away from the front strut. Go ahead and hang that aside, making sure that you're putting no pressure on your flex hose or on your ABS wire. This looks good. We can make our way up into the engine compartment. Now up along the rear of the engine compartment, we can see where our wiper arm is. We need to make our way underneath here. Generally, you'd want to pull up a little bit, and you're going to find that there's a push clip. Ours is missing, but typically for that, you just go ahead and pull it right up and out of position, quick inspection, set it aside. After that, you should be able to lift this up enough that you can put a small spacer, holding this up so we can continue on with the hardware. I'm going to use a small block of wood as a spacer. That exposes our 3 14mm pieces of hardware. Start breaking these free using a 14mm wrench. There's minimal room for the back mounting nuts here. Now let's get the next rear mounting nut. Now, as we start removing our final mounting nut, keep in mind this is the last thing holding our front strut in position. So as we get close to the very end of the threaded portion, we need to make sure we're holding onto the front strut so it does not fall down, cause any damage, or hurt anybody. This one's pretty much out in the open. We can use an impact tool if necessary. Let's hold that front strut. There it is, friend. Prior to installing the brand new front strut assembly, of course we want to make sure we clean and inspect everything. We're starting up along the top here. We can use some compressed air if necessary, or even a vacuum cleaner. Now it's time to install the brand new front strut assembly. We want to make sure we have the strut cap aligned with the ports in the body of the vehicle. We'll bring this into position. As we bring this into position, you can carefully reach inside the center port. Let's get that first mounting nut started on there. Continue on with the other two. Last one, far corner. They're started in. Now we're going to bottom them out. We are not torquing these yet. We need to make sure everything's back together with the full weight of the vehicle back down on the ground first. To tighten these nuts, we'll be using a 15 millimeter. There's the second one. Let's pause up here. We're making our way back into the wheel well. Now down here, before we reinstall the knuckle into the front strut, we just want to make sure that the knuckle is still in good usable order. We'll just give it a quick wipe. If anything looks like it's rotted and weak, you definitely need to service that. This looks good, so let's bring it up into place. As we bring it over, we also need to make sure that the axle is sliding into the wheel bearing. It's time for the two lower strut mounting bolts. Slide them through from the rear towards the front. Start on your mounting nuts. Be aware of your ABS wheel speed sensor wire. We don't want to cause any damage to that. We know our ABS wire is clear. We're going to hold the bolt head and snug the mounting nut. The torque for each of these will be 177 foot-pounds. Let's get this next one. Let's start resecuring our ABS wheel speed sensor wiring harness. That just slides right into place here. We're aligning the mounting bolt port. Now the flex hose, once again, mounting bolt port, and our 14 millimeter bolts holding everything together. Get that started in, let's snug it up. There we are. Double check, make sure that's secured in place. We're also going to secure our ABS wire down inside the port here on our front strut. Just go ahead and line it up, press it in. Double check, make sure that's secured. It's not going to get caught while we're driving down the road. Let's bring the upper portion of the sway bar link over towards our front strut next. Slide that into position. We'll start on our mounting nut. We'll snug this up and torque it to 55 foot-pounds. Now it's time for the axle nut. Of course, we're going to start it on by hand. We'll bottom this out. The torque for this is going to be 156 foot-pounds. When you go to torque this, you may find that this spins on you. Now, if that's the case, you could have a second person pressing on the brake while you go ahead and torque this. Otherwise, if you don't have a second person, you could use a pry bar diagonally down towards the ground, preventing this from turning. For now, I'm going to snug this up. For this, we're not using an impact tool. It's time to torque the axle nut. I have my bar going across my lug studs down towards the ground, preventing this from spinning on me. We'll be torquing this to 156 foot-pounds. Now, if you were looking at the axle shaft itself, you're going to find that it has a slot making its way all the way in. We want to try to drive that nut into the slot, so I'm just using a hammer and punch. We'll give this a couple taps. You can go as far as you feel necessary. Essentially, we just want to make sure the nut does not loosen while we're driving down the road. Let's get our wheel in place. Now at this point, we're going to start on all 5 of our 21mm lug nuts. We'll bottom them out, get the wheel safely on the ground, and we can torque these to 76 foot-pounds. With the wheel back on the ground, let's torque each one of our 21mm lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. Torqued. Now that we have the wheel back on and the full weight of the vehicle back on the ground, we're going to torque each one of our upper mounting nuts for the front strut to 37 foot-pounds. I'm using a 15mm crow's foot for this. Let's get this in here. Get this wood out of here. We're going to press this down, continue on with our push clip in the corner here. I'm just replacing it with a new one. Ours did not have one. Okay, friend, we finished the installation of one side of our vehicle's front strut assemblies. The process for one side of the vehicle is the exact same thing as the other. Once you've completed both side front strut assemblies, take your vehicle for a road test down to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.